welcome and thank you, Tom Hamza, President of the Investor Education Fund, for joining us today to help us learn a little bit about the management of online learning. So, Tom, you might want to take a couple of minutes to tell us a little bit about what the Investor Education Fund does.
Sure, Laura. Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to see you. The Investor Education Fund is a financial education organization, and there's a number of ways that we work. We're both online and in schools. We're funded by the Ontario Securities Commission, and we're Canada's largest not-for-profit financial education group. And we work primarily online through GetSmarterAboutMoney.ca, which is a site that since the 2009 crash, although it's fading in memory, has been growing at about 40% a year, and about 2 million people will come to our site this year. We do a lot of work online, and we spend a lot of time doing innovative digital experiences as well. We train teachers and we give them the materials that they need in order to have captivating content. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what we do. And we're not for profit, and we're independent in this way. So.
Great. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about your role in procurement management, and specifically because the Investor Education Fund does bring in other individuals and organizations to do some of the online learning development. So as an organization that has to contract these organizations and groups, tell us a little bit about how you approach that process.
Sure. Well, certainly as an organization, we stay lean because we have to. Our budgets are generally year to year. So there's a strong reliance on outside contractors. And whenever you have that situation, there's a couple of things you have to make sure you do. Number one, you have to make sure that you have a wide network, as wide a network as possible, when you are seeking contractors to do work for you. And second of all, you have to have a really good process in which to filter those people out. And it's funny because the RFP is what gets the attention. It's a one-time action, and it is something that happens over a short period of time. But really, a lot of that RFP, particularly when you have a small organization like ours, where we're not digital specialists exclusively. We do a lot of things. We spend a lot of time cultivating in between the RFPs, cultivating a base of people that are interested and able and capable in this way. And it's a frequent ending to any conversation that we have in this area is what kind of contractors do you use? Who are your sources? Because that RFP is almost an ongoing process because of that. You got to know who's available, and you got to figure out a good process to get them in place.
Now, do you have any tips for us to understand how to go about doing an RFP, lessons learned, things having to do with how do you determine how specific the information is that you put in the RFP, that kind of thing?
Well, it's hard to necessarily have strict, hard and fast rules. Generally, I've done RFPs in my career, everything from the auto industry and buying stamped pieces of metal for an auto manufacturer, all the way to hyper concentrated digital projects that actually have an outcome that we don't exactly know. So, in other words, we're going out to the market to make sure that we to both give them some information and to get their ideas, so we can choose the best option. And in particular, with those latter projects, it's really, really difficult sometimes because there's two things you're measuring. You're measuring capability, and you're measuring also ideas, and delineating between the two is really tough. One thing to always keep in mind is that an RFI is a good start to an RFP, simply because a lot of times, we've had, for instance, in a marketing situation where we're looking for a marketing partner and we're asking them to submit, ideas for projects that we have to see what kind of chops they have as far as capabilities go. You know, if we do the RFI first, or if we do a two-stage RFP where we're getting those actual physical capabilities, online marketing or online development and that sort of information out of the way, then you can start to focus on, you can filter all those people, make sure they have those skills, and then you can talk about what their value add beyond that is. Certainly I've found in my experience that if you try to lump them all together, you'll frequently end up with, you know, it'll look like an equalizer on an old style stereo where somebody's a 10 here and they're a 2 here and a 1 here, and you know the other person's the exact opposite, and I can't, it's hard to assess even if you have a score sheet for it.
That's wonderful. And are there any tips that you would recommend to those who want to learn how to do a strong response to an RFP or an RFI?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things about, particularly with an organization like ours, we are although we're a not-for-profit, we are an arm's length organization of government, meaning that, you know, those RFPs, every word is thought of. You know, it's not something that can be taken seriously enough, because fundamentally, you know, RFPs are difficult, can be legal quagmires, and they have been for a lot of organizations like ours. So you gotta read it very, very closely, both to understand obviously what is wanted, but also read in between the lines, because an RFP, you know, you've got to read not just the RFP but the organization itself. So there's a lot of contextual information that you can get, you know, beyond the RFP, looking at annual reports and looking at what this organization does and how big it is, how much success it's had in this area. Is this completely new to what they're doing, or is this something they've done time and time again? You know, that's the kind of information that when you're responding can make a real difference, because ultimately, if this is the 10th time I've done this, then I'm probably going to be focused on efficiency. If this is the first time I've done something, a new project, then I'm really going to probably be making sure that that my bases are covered and that it doesn't explode when it goes wrong. That's the kind of information that can make a real difference. The other thing that I would suggest as well is that you know, typical RFP, depending on who the organization is, you know, it can go anywhere from 15 to 100 pages.
Oh, we've got a glitch on your...
Depending on the type of suppliers, you know, there can be 10, 100-page responses. Don't be afraid of making sure that wherever, you know, whenever you're submitting this, your delivery messages are absolutely clear and simple and easy to understand. A lot of people, particularly when we get to academic, you know, online learning kind of scenarios, feel that there's a worth in the volume of words, and that's not the case. Diagrams are critical. If you can even put in an infographic of some sort, if you can really make use of bullet points to get your message across, and also give that delivery plan clearly so that the person on the other side gets what you're actually trying to give them. That's what you've got to do to distinguish yourself.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tom.